Hey, what's up, guys? It's Renaldo here. So, as you can see, I'm not at home. I'm currently in Pretoria. I'm attending the Future of Nations conference that is being hosted by Adams Roots's Lex Libertas, and I'm really looking forward to it. But today, the 24th of February, we went to the Voortrekker monument, and wow, it moved something in me again, because as an Afrikaner, I went to a monument that was built by my forefathers in honor of God, in honor of a vow that they made to God, that if God helped them at the Battle of Blood River and for them to survive as a culture, as a nation, that they will remember that day every single year as the day of the vow, and that they will build a monument in his honor. And when you go there, you can sense something. And it's just phenomenal to see that your culture did something like that. I know that in today's day and age, we live in a society where the government can't even build a school. And then you look at that monument and you can see that in 1939, that was built. And today, people struggle to build something similar because most of the money gets stolen through corruption. And there's just no pride in working for the nation and doing good for the nation. And that is why I want to bridge over into the topic for today, which is NHI, which is something that would absolutely destroy this country. NHI is estimated to cost over R1 trillion, something that we just can't afford at all, because firstly, we don't have enough taxpayers to foot the bill. More and more taxpayers are leaving this country because they are being taxed to death. And yet our government, in all of its wisdom, still thinks that NHI is a good idea. Well, at least Solidariteit, as well as many other organizations, has come out to take this to the Constitutional Court. And that is why today there was a mini victory, in the sense that the court ruled, and because both parties agreed, that NHI will not be implemented or worked on further for implementation until it is being heard at the Constitutional Court in May of this year. And that is going to be based on the procedural aspect of it, whether enough consultation processes took place. And once there's a verdict from that, then either Solidariteit will continue with what they are doing at the moment, or they will then decide to retract if the government isn't going to take it further because it is found to be unconstitutional. But just to give you an idea of all the organizations that played a part in this, I actually want to read it to you. So these are the people that have decided to take this matter to the Constitutional Court: the Board of Healthcare Funders, Western Cape Government, Solidariteit, Hospital Association of South Africa, South African Medical Association, the South African Private Practitioners Forum, Health Funders Association, Sakeliga, AfriForum, and others, and even more people than that. So just on that, the government should kind of have an indication that most medical professionals, or the unions or the organizations that represent them, don't want this. And they should know better than anybody else why this is a terrible idea. Yes, of course, there is money at play here, but I think that most people in this country will agree that we would rather want good doctors than doctors that don't know what they are doing. And if NHI is implemented in this country, we are going to lose so many doctors. And I'll give you an example of this. When I was a counselor, I started in 2016 as a ward counselor. I used to do 1 to 2 proof of addresses a week. By the time that I ended my term in 2024, before I went to Parliament, I was doing about 5 to 10 a day at my ward office. And the overwhelming majority of them were doctors, nurses, psychologists, dentists, all people in the medical field, because they know that if NHI has to hit South Africa, it's game over. Because this is going to be the straw that broke the camel's back in South Africa. Because if you can't get quality healthcare, when you need it the most, then why would you want to risk your life in this country? You are already risking your life every single day because we have between 60 to 70 murders every single day in this country. There are violent crimes taking place every few minutes in this country. Gender-based violence is one of the worst in the world. And now they want to put this on top of it. So when you do get stabbed or when you do get shot because crime is so rampant in this country, then at least you can know that you can go to a private hospital if you have a medical aid in order to get assisted by the best people in those positions. Now, if NHI has to kick in, with so many doctors that will leave, you don't know the quality of doctor that you're going to get, and you also don't know the quality of the hospital that you're going to get, because ultimately everything the government has touched in this country has turned into a failure. You just need to look at the state-owned enterprises in this country and then please tell me which one is still functioning. So now with that, people were kind of like, oh, it's terrible, I can't believe that the government has completely destroyed these state-owned enterprises. And I think the one that affected us the worst was Eskom, because that inconvenienced you. Because for a couple of hours a day, you would be without electricity. Now imagine if the government did that to healthcare and your life is on the line. That is why NHI is such a terrible idea. Keep the government out of healthcare. Keep it out of healthcare, because the moment the ANC or its coalition partners touches NHI, there's going to be a lot of money that's going to be stolen, because remember, there's R1 trillion on offer here. And please indicate to me whenever there has been a big investment or a big allocation of money for something specific that a large chunk of that money didn't get stolen. Please indicate it to me. I'd love to see it. Whether it is the COVID relief fund, whether it is any of the other funds that has been established, you always find cadres, you always find cronies and people that just steal a lot of the money. So if NHI kicks in, you can already see these things at hospitals. Look at the current state of some of the state hospitals where money was allocated for upgrades or, for them to get machinery. Most of that money was stolen. And now we should trust the government with NHI. Are they batshit crazy? And also, just the way that NHI was signed into law. Cyril Ramaphosa, right before the election, decided, I'm going to pass this one because I'm not sure if I'm be able to pass it after the election. So it already went through with a really massive question mark as to why the president decided to sign that right before the election in 2024. And now we are in this situation where they are boasting about it during the State of the Nation. They are addressing it as if it's a foregone conclusion. And every single person in this country that actually cares about this country, the poorest of the poor to the wealthiest, they're saying NHI is a terrible idea. So you have to ask yourself, if everybody that is worth listening to is telling you that NHI is a bad idea, why does the ANC want to implement this? Well, it's like I said earlier, they want to steal as much money as possible. And that is why this court case by Solidariteit was so important, because they came to an agreement that NHI will not be implemented or it won't be promulgated any further until the Constitutional Court ruling on whether, firstly, the correct procedures were followed, meaning the consultation processes with the public. And if that then already fails at that hurdle and NHI is considered unconstitutional, then the government has to go back to the drawing board. However, if the Constitutional Court ruled that all the processes is fine, then you're going to see all of the people that I mentioned earlier continue with their court cases. I also mentioned this in 2021 when people brought this under my attention and asked me, what do I think? Do I think it's going to be implemented? Do I think that's going to be the end of South Africa? And I said, well, if it's implemented, it will be the end of South Africa because we can't afford it. And every single professional in the medical field will leave this country for greener pastures, and they will find it there because NHI is definitely not going to leave any grass in this country. So it's not a question of whether things are always greener or grass is always greener on the other side. No, there's not going to be no grass here if NHI is implemented. But what I want to focus on is just to let you know that even if it passes that first hurdle with the Constitutional Court and they say, okay, all processes were followed, it's fine, you're going to see all of those people come with those court cases to prevent it. And I predicted this in 2021. I said that even if the president signs this into law, it's not going to go anywhere immediately, because you are going to see so many organizations and groups that represent the medical field in this country. They're going to take it to court and it's going to be there for years. And as is the case with the Constitutional Court, it will take many, many years. So if you are concerned over it, you're right to be concerned, but it's not going to be a decision that I believe is going to fundamentally change South Africa, at least for the next 3, 4, 5 years, because that is how long I think at minimum it's going to take to be heard through all the courts and finally in the Constitutional Court. So you can still breathe a sigh of relief. And also, I just have to say well done to Solidariteit. And it's amazing how it connects in to me being here and going to the Voortrekker monument, because Solidariteit, that represents Afrikaners, once again had an amazing victory today, or at least made the government halt what it wants to implement. And I can only say congratulations, well done guys, and thank you for fighting and caring about South Africa. Because if you go to the Voortrekker monument and you look at what is engraved in that stone, it says, Ons vir jou, Suid-Afrika. And the Afrikaner, through all of their history on the African continent, has continued that legacy of fighting for this country first and foremost above anything else. And that deserves respect. And I know that many people have an opinion on Afrikaners, and according to mainstream media and according to the government, we are, the worst of the worst. But I'm here to tell you, if you're an Afrikaner, be proud of yourself, be proud of your culture. Look at what we have achieved in this country. Look at what we have built in this country. Be proud of who and what you are. Nobody is perfect. Of course, there are terrible things that also happened that some Afrikaners did. But please show me a culture that hasn't done terrible things. Let's ask the British, considering the Anglo-Boer War. Let's ask the Germans. Let's ask the Americans. Let's ask anybody. And you'll find that throughout history, there were terrible things that has been done by their culture. So ultimately, I just want to end off this video by saying, don't allow people to dictate how you should feel about your culture. Do your own research, and then you can decide whether or not you are proud of your culture or whether you despise and are embarrassed by your culture. And that's pretty much all I got to say, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in. Please be sure to smash that like button, share this video far and wide. Don't forget to subscribe. It's free, and the overwhelming majority of you that regularly watch my content aren't subscribed. So please fix that by clicking the subscribe button below. And if you'd like to support this channel financially, you can give a super thanks below, or you can become a member to this channel, and that'll cost you R39.99 a month. And you can do that by clicking the join button below. And that's all I got to say, everybody. Till later. Cheers and peace out.
You don't even know me, but every time you see me, you say I wear my massacre. You don't even know me, but every time you see me, you say I wear my massacre. I wear my massacre. You don't even know me, but every time you see me, you say I wear my massacre.